Hi, my name is Captain Miola. I'm with the Civil Police Department, and I've just learned about a dangerous situation at one of our schools. Apparently, there's been a shooting, and a teacher who had been fired this morning is suspected to be the suspect. He's armed with a rifle, and I will be responding immediately. Uh, while I am on the way, I'm going to order that all units respond and use cover and concealment when they approach, since he is using a rifle, and that's a long-range weapon. I'm going to order Lieutenant Monteverde, who's the shift commander, to locate and secure the best access point to the principal's office, which is where he's supposed to be holding his hostages. There are supposed to be wounded, and we're going to make sure that EMS and paramedics are responding to the scene as well. I'm going to make sure that to secure all of the exits and direct any students or teachers who are trying to escape to a safe point. I'm going to activate the ICS protocol. Now, what the ICS protocol does is it will give me more resources than I would normally have access to. It will also provide for a unity of command, and also it will integrate our communications using common terminology, which is very important. I'm going to notify our deputy chief and chief, as well as the county prosecutor's office, due to the seriousness of the situation, and I'm going to make sure that I follow the chain of command when I do that. I'm going to notify any area hospitals that there are potentially some wounded who will be incoming. I'm also going to request that our designated law enforcement liaison respond, because he's familiar with both the school and the suspect that's involved in this situation. I'm going to order all of our officers to activate their body-worn cameras. Now, normally in a school, we would deactivate the cameras, but because of the seriousness and the nature of what's happening here, I want their cameras rolling, and we could utilize that information to our advantage. I'm going to also request that SWAT respond. Now, obviously, because this man is armed with a rifle, we're going to want their tactical expertise. We're going to use some equipment of theirs, mainly some distraction devices, some long-range weapons, meaning a sniper. We can use ballistic shields to make our approach, and then if it becomes protracted, we could use night vision if it gets dark, and also flashlights and distraction devices. I'm going to make sure that there's mutual aid called for both police and emergency services. I'm going to make sure that there's a canine who responds in case we need to track either the suspects or even victims or witnesses who are fleeing. I'm going to make sure that we have a negotiator on scene to see if we can bring this to a peaceful resolution. And I'm also going to make sure that North Star is activated and is available to us should we need to medevac somebody out of there. I'm going to instruct our public information officer to issue a shelter-in-place message on social media and request that the news media do the same. This is important. I'm going to make sure that the news media is our partner in this and trying to get them to work with us and help us with this situation. I'm going to utilize reverse 911 to alert all residents to stay away from the area and to call police if they see anything suspicious. I'm going to also request that the bomb squad respond so that we can utilize their drone technology to place eyes inside of the building if we're not able to actually make access ourselves. Maybe they can deliver a distraction device if it's appropriate. Now, once I'm at the scene, I'm going to assume command. I'm going to use an authoritative leadership style because time is of the essence and I can't have debates happening out there. I'm also going to use my most competent employees for the most important assignments, regardless of their rank. I'm going to attempt to make contact with Mr. Hill and hopefully anyone else inside the principal's office, and I'll do that either by phone or by text. Text is actually preferred because generally people use two hands when they're texting, and that may provide us with a tactical advantage. I'm going to try and begin a dialogue with Mr. Hill and ask for his surrender or at least a release of some of the hostages, and I'm going to use a negotiator if need be, if it's more advantageous. I'm going to determine Mr. Hill's mental state. I'm going to see if he's angry, if he's despondent, if he's cooperative, try and ascertain what his goals are, and I'm going to try and show empathy and establish some trust. I'm going to also establish a command post a safe distance away from the scene. Now, the command post will be manned with a scribe who will document all of the actions that we're taking, as well as at least two officers for communications, One will handle radio communications, the other will handle telephone communications. This way I can focus on the task at hand. I'm going to use a separate communications channel for this incident. I'm going to establish a staging area big enough to receive all the incoming resources that we may use, and also to house to provide a place for the media. I'm also going to assign the public information officer to the staging area so he can interact with the media. I'm also going to establish a reunification center for any hostages and victims who need to be reunited with their family members who may be responding to the scene. I'm also going to establish an inner and an outer perimeter. Now, the inner perimeter allows essential personnel to work the scene. The outer perimeter provides a buffer zone between the public and the inner perimeter. I'm also going to make sure that there's a safety lane so that emergency vehicles and people can get to the inner perimeter if they need to, quickly and without any obstacles. I'm going to assign our traffic officers to man the outer perimeter, unless, of course, they're needed as sworn officers to work the actual scene, in which case I'll notify auxiliary police or some mutual aid officers to come and man those outer perimeter positions. I'm going to order that all officers engage the suspect if they see any threat to life whatsoever and neutralize the active shooter. I'm going to devise a plan of attack, which could possibly be to overwhelm the suspect with a variety of different weapons, including less lethal ammunition, conducted energy devices, and anything else that may bring this to a peaceful resolution. But if they can't negotiate a peaceful resolution and he has to be neutralized, then so be it. I'm going to request investigative personnel respond. I'm going to locate anyone who already escaped and provide first aid to them, but also try and obtain some intelligence from them and find out what's happening inside. I'll make sure that they're available to the investigative personnel for questioning and for debriefing. I'll determine Mr. Hill's home address and locate his family. I'll try and bring his wife to the scene to help negotiate a peaceful settlement. And then I'll secure his residence in anticipation of obtaining a search warrant to search his house. If the situation becomes protracted, I'll arrange for food and water and ammunition, and then relief of the officers who are working the scene. I'll hold over the current shift, and I'll also bring in the next shift early if need be to provide more manpower. I'll update my superiors through the chain of command so that they're always aware of what's going on and have the most current information so that they can make accurate decisions. Now, if Mr. Hill is arrested, I will ensure that we secure the scene and thoroughly search the suspect for any other weapons. I'll provide first aid to the victims and make sure that the victims and even the suspect, if he's injured, are transported to the hospital as needed, and make sure that they have police escorts and guards placed upon them. I'll make sure that whatever police officers are with the suspect have their body cameras rolling, especially during transport, and also to capture any spontaneous utterances that they may have. I'll make sure that I'll consult with the county prosecutor's office regarding any charges that we're going to be levying against Mr. Hill, and they should include, at a minimum, aggravated assault, some weapons offenses, the sexual assault charges, possibly kidnapping, and attempted murder. I'm going to request that a CSI unit respond to process the scene. I'm going to make sure that the weapons and the ballistics are run through NCIC to determine if they are stolen or not, E-Trace to determine ownership of the weapons, and also through NIBIN to make sure that none of the ballistic evidence comes back associated with other crimes. I'll initiate the sexual assault investigation. I'll try and locate any other victims and determine if a SART activation is appropriate and desired. Of course, it's their option. They may have access to any and all of the SART services. I'll interview other members of the JV team to see if there are any more victims, and make sure that if Mr. Hill had contact with any other student body, that we interview those people as well to find out if there's any additional victims. I'll provide the victims and the witnesses with the appropriate literature as per the victim witness guideline, and I'll collect any evidence, including cell phone and communications, pictures, and so on and so forth. Of course, I will obtain a search warrant for that information. I'll order investigators to Mirandize Mr. Hill before questioning him and to make sure that they videotape any interview and or confession. I'll assign a lieutenant to review all reports and approve them. I'll order a canine or a bomb dog to respond to the building to do a building search. And I'll utilize janitors or other school employees to assist with that because they have a more intimate knowledge and access to areas that some people do not. Now, after the incident, I'll make sure that I'll return all non-essential units back into service. I'll investigate the actions preceding the events of today to determine if our school liaison was notified about Mr. Hill's situation and if he was present for his dismissal, and to find out if he had any knowledge of anything that went on. If a notification was made and our liaison didn't do anything, I'll make sure that Internal Affairs is notified, and we will investigate that thoroughly to follow up to find out if there's any negligence or nonfeasance on his or her part. I'll provide a crime scene cleanup of the debris and remove all of the damage. I'll document the incident thoroughly for future review with the command staff, and also use the scribe's notes to summarize the incident. I'll order all of my officers to undergo critical incident stress debriefing within 24 to 72 hours after the incident. I'll arrange to have psychological counseling for the affected students and the faculty, and I'd like to conduct a community meeting so we can discuss the situation and the police response and see if the key stakeholders have any feedback that can be shared with us and helpful. I'll encourage anyone with any more information about the situation to come forward via a press release, and also identify the investigator through the news media and through the public information officer. I'll make sure that the public information officer also releases information in strict compliance with Executive Order 69. I'll commend our officers who distinguish themselves in public, and I'll also counsel our officers who may have fallen short, but I'll make sure I do that in private. I'll identify training opportunities by conducting an after-action critique with our command staff and also with the school employees. I'll determine what we did right, what we did wrong, and how we can prevent a situation like this from happening again. I'll make sure that I write thank you letters to all the assisting agencies and organizations that helped bring this situation to a conclusion, and I'll follow up with the victims and the school administrators to determine if they have any pretrial assistance that they need. And then finally, I'll delegate the designated school liaison to design and implement educational programs for the students and the faculty regarding the appropriate contact between the two groups. In closing, I'd like to summarize that this situation presented some really critical problems and some challenges, including responding and neutralizing that threat, investigating the crimes that were committed, evaluating how our response went, and then following up with everyone who was affected by it. Now, I strongly believe that my response addressed all of these issues, and I'm proud of the job that my team did. And I'd like you to take my business card in the event that you'd like to contact me with any other information, or if you'd like to ask any other questions regarding this incident. Thank you.